Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaden Awful, and if you're new here, I make impractical crafts and lifestyle content, and this week I am making a terrarium, which I'm so excited for because it's kind of always been on the back of my mind, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it, and now I finally have the opportunity to make one. This adventure started several months ago when my mom was like, "Hey, I have this glass jar, do you want it?" And I was like, "Of course I would like it." And then I promptly left it at my mom's house for like 6 months. So now it is here. Let's just hop right on into the plan.
As you can see, the base of this jar was very light, and just based on the sewing table you can kind of tell I like darker wood. And so I decided that I was going to go ahead and use my staining process to stain it, and I will show that in a second. But along with it, I went ahead and I got these two plants. One is called a radiator plant and the other one is just called ivy. They have similar lighting conditions that are needed to grow, as well as similar moisture conditions. So I figured that they would be pretty good roommates in the terrarium. And then I also bought this aquarium rocks just to put at the bottom of my terrarium to help with draining. And I got black just to kind of blend into the dirt a little better. For my faux staining, what I like to do is I take some paint and then I water it way down, and that creates a fake stain so that I can stain really porous wood. And I am not a professional when it comes to any of this stuff, but I am pretty sure that singing is an absolutely necessary part of this project.
Go away, go away. Go away, go away, go away. Go away, go away. Go.
Yeah?
Cha.
Are you painting?
Cha.
Yeah. No, not on the tablecloth.
Here it is. After my son expertly helped me to stain, quote unquote, my little base, and I think I have an idea of what I want to put in here to live. So we will get there when we get there, kind of a fun, whimsical twist. But for now, we're going to be trying to keep this kind of, sort of vintage-y. So without any further ado, let's just hop right on into it.
I decided to put some aquarium gravel down at the bottom of the terrarium just so that there would be a little bit of drainage since there's no hole. And this was just so that the soil would not become completely saturated every time I watered it, but it had somewhere to go. And since I'm taking so long to open this, let's learn about terrariums. Terrariums were a discovery that were accidentally invented by Dr. Nathaniel Bagshaw Ward, and they were called Wardian cabinets, and they were actually used to transport plants. This is kind of how we started to see plants begin to travel outside of their native area, because it was a way for them to be stored on ships and actually survive the trip. And these became very elaborate and very popular in many Victorians' homes, and they stayed pretty popular. I mean, here's this ad from the 1970s for this terrarium, and today that amount of money, the $24.99, would be about $194. So these have always been pretty sought after ever since they were invented accidentally. You can't really tell in this video, but there is actually a mistake here, and that is that this soil is completely soaked. I had left it overnight to saturate because it had been acting pretty hydrophobic, and so I just wanted to make sure that it was able to be saturated, but the water is absolutely soaking wet, and later you'll kind of see that that does affect something in kind of a big way, but we'll get there in a second. Basically, I layered some dirt on top of the rocks just so that I would be able to have a little bit of room for the roots to grow. I do eventually expect them to be able to grow into the rocks, but because of the type of root that they currently have, I wanted them to be able to grow down into soil. Also, I'm so sorry. It's so funny watching me process this right in this clip right here. This is called the radiator plant, and I'm not entirely sure why it's called that. Maybe because it grows around radiators, if radiators are outside. But I decided to keep it all together in one little root bundle just so that it could grow in one little spot, kind of like a succulent, because I'm not entirely sure what it is. For the ivy, I decided to break it up a little more so that I had a little more coverage that I could cover within the terrarium itself. I did this by kind of spreading the roots out so that the leaves were to spread and kind of line the back of the circle. At the time, I grabbed a pothos that I had been propagating with the idea of sticking it into the terrarium so that it could grow, but I ended up deciding that it looked too crowded for what I wanted to do with it, so I ended up taking it back out. To keep a more cohesive look, I added in some more soil to the front while still keeping it raised in the back so that it was kind of a slope. In retrospect, I kind of wish I had gotten some rocks so that I could form a little bit of a wall. But honestly, I kind of like that natural look as well, so it was just to kind of help, again, with some draining and also to give the roots a place to go in the future. Using some of the leftover moss from the Baba Yaga house, I added in more greenery all around the bottom of the terrarium. I really liked the moss bed look, and I felt that it really pulled in together with all of the green variations of the leaves as well. Then, using a spray bottle, I tried to spray down all of the edges of the terrarium just to make it look clean. This was kind of a mistake as well because the soil was already so saturated with water that this water had nowhere to go and it ended up pooling at the bottom. And I ended up having to take a paper towel later and tilting the terrarium on its side to get some of that water out so that it wouldn't cause root rot and so that the water had somewhere to go. And also because I realized that this guy got kicked out of his home because of how wet it was and he was going to drown. And I didn't want him to drown because he is a good little bug and he will eat any little bad bugs that get in there. So I needed to make sure that I protected him. And with that, that takes us to the reveal. Oh, and guess what? It's whimsical.
After the party drew its natural 20, the party finds themselves with a new pet. The shambling mound is a lush, moist dweller with the ability to consume all organic matter. This one, however, now finds himself in a new forever home.